Hello and welcome to the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. This podcast takes you behind the scenes of very successful mortgage businesses across North America and shares with you the strategies, systems, marketing, and philosophies of these businesses and takes you behind the scenes of the structures of how these business owners are building such incredible mortgage businesses. Our goal with this podcast is to help you understand how to create and grow a mortgage business that makes you truly wealthy. And that includes both the money and the time that you need to truly live a life of freedom. Now, during these interviews, I look to pull out at least 3 incredibly valuable and life-changing tips from each guest, and they tend to show up near the end of each episode for some reason. So make sure you stay to the end. And when you find value in one of our episodes, please take the time to head on over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It makes a big impact on our ability to continue to attract top performers and give you incredible value on the show. So thank you for listening to the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. My name is Chris Johnstone. I'm your host. Let's get started on getting you one step closer to wealth in your mortgage business. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We have a very special episode for you today. We have Robert Fillyaw with us. Robert, welcome to the show.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having me, bud. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for taking the time. We know you're a busy guy. So start off by giving our listeners just a rough idea of where you came from. So how did you get into the mortgage industry? What did the first couple of years of your career look like?
Yeah. So kind of by happenstance, right? I was actually working in a bank as a part-time teller and going to college, and decided that the banking route was for me. So kind of rose through the ranks of retail banking and became a branch manager. Went off to Iraq and was in charge of a squad of Marines over there, and decided when I came home that I really kind of only wanted to be in charge of me and not manage people anymore. So I jumped in 2007. I jumped into retail mortgage with both feet, and what a time to do it, right? So that was it. I jumped in and have never looked back. The first couple years were fun. They were a challenge. You know, I mean, 07, 08, 09 kind of hit and had to figure things out quickly, but was able to very quickly kind of ramp the business up, and we were a little bit insulated from some of the events that happened then because of the universities and the hospitals and such in Gainesville. So learned a lot really fast, and I have never looked back.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned were you a Marine?
I was in the Marine Corps 8 years.
Wow. Well, first off, thank you very much for your service.
Absolutely.
And second, I saw the picture that you posted on Facebook last week about the craziest thing you'd ever done for money.
Yes.
That was a very serious picture.
Yeah, that wasn't me. That was a stock photo. But yeah, that's the craziest thing I think I've ever done for money, is enlist in the Marine Corps. At the end of the day, though, right? It wasn't for the money. No one goes into the military for the money.
Yeah, that is so true. So you started with just basic retail banking, got into lending. From that point, you mentioned you were a branch manager. Were you a producing branch manager and you were bringing in most of the volume? What did your team initially look like when you got into the business?
Yeah, so initially when I jumped over to mortgage, so I was a branch manager for a banking center, and then jumped into mortgage because I didn't want to manage people. So I was a one-man band initially, solo originator. You know, the first year I think I did, I don't know, 11, 12 million, you know, and just kind of steadily ramped up from there. Within about 4 or 5 years as a solo originator, I had built to roughly 30 million in production, which from a volume standpoint doesn't probably wow anyone out there, but we got to remember my average loan size was like 140, right? So from a unit standpoint, we were doing a lot of business. I started building my team, gosh, I guess probably 2013, 14. Started realizing that, you know, I had to get some support. I had to start building a team if I wanted to get to the next level, and started working on that. Found the Freedom Club in 2016.
Okay.
And jumped in and started trying to implement. I was with a small community bank at the time, and unfortunately started getting some pushback, right? As I started trying to implement, started trying to add the pieces, and it was just a different mindset. It was a lot of, you know, well, that loan partner is going to cost us X amount of dollars, not that loan partner is going to make us, it's a profit center. It's going to make us however much money. Um, so that was, that was a challenge. And at this point we had grown the volume of the team to my personal volume through the team, probably, I don't know, 70, 75 million a year.
Yeah.
So doing great. And, then just realized that unfortunately we had to make a change. So in 2018, I launched my own branch and became a non-producing branch manager with AnnieMac,
Okay.
and have just never really looked back from there. They enabled us to implement all the things we wanted to do and grow, and really that next level. It's funny, Carl White always talks about what takes you from A to B isn't going to be what takes you from B to C, and it couldn't be more true than in my story.
Yeah, and that is so true. And I talk to so many branch managers that have that pushback on building of the team and the support people because, again, just like you said, the mentality of it's a cost, it's not a revenue stream.
Yep.
So I'm interested in, so 2014 you started building your first team, going from solo producer to building the team.
Yes.
What did you try and do to build the team? Like, what was the first hire that you went off? And then what would you do differently, knowing what you know now, part of being the Freedom Club and having the success that you're having right now? What did you do, and then what would you have done differently?
So the first thing that we did, or that I did, was bring in a loan partner when
Okay.
we started building the team, right? To be able to offload some of what I call the minutia. We were a delegated correspondent lender where I was then, so we still had paper files, right? This is 2014, so we had to like put the file in a stacking order, right? And we had to very small entities, so I had to do all the order outs. There
Wow.
was a lot that was on the plate of the originator, so bringing in a loan partner, I load leveled all of that off of me. To them, which of course, as we know, freed me up to go build more relationships, right? Um, so that was the first hire, the first thing that we started with out of the gate, just getting that stuff off, giving me some time freedom to be able to market. What would I have done differently? I would have done that about 5 years, 6 years sooner. I can't imagine I mean, our business we've been really blessed. But I can't imagine. I stop and think sometimes with guys that I'm working with, if I would have started doing these things 5 years sooner, what it would look like today. Yeah, I get exciting when I'm coaching with some of these guys or talking with some of these guys. I've got a guy with me now. He's 20, I think he's 27, and he's in the Freedom Club, and so he's now, right? Like I
Yeah.
was, so let's see, I was 36, and I'm like, dude, you've got an 11-year, 9-year head start on where I was. Like, so I would have done it a hell of a lot sooner.
That is amazing. And for everybody listening, do you mind sharing where you're at right now in the business?
Yeah, not at all. So when we came over and built the branch in 2018, it was a very much a growth mindset. We were looking for a partner to align to do that, and AnnieMac's been fantastic. So I think it's, when we came over, my personal production on the team was somewhere about 70, 75 mil. Our branch production, we had 3 locations in Florida. We were, I don't know, about 24 people on the team. We did 92 million that first year in 2018, which was a great year.
Yeah.
So fast forward today, and we've just, again, Chris, been blessed with explosive growth and just opportunity. We're going to be, I don't know, we're gonna probably be somewhere around 550 mil this year with the branch.
That is amazing.
It's nuts, man. We went from 26 people with their trust and faith and confidence in us and our vision and our plan, to we're at 120 family members, work family now. Um,
Wow.
and went from three offices in one state to now we've got 20 offices across 9 states. It's been a wild ride the last 3.5 years. It's been a hell of a lot of fun.
That is amazing. I had no idea you were up to 20 offices now. That has been explosive growth.
It's nuts, man. It's nuts. Good people, taking care of people, and in turn bringing them in and having them take care of each other. And we've just, a lot of places talk about culture and don't necessarily live it. We live it and then tell the stories about it. And, that's a huge difference.
That it most definitely is. So obviously you're taking the Freedom Club system and you're taking your own refinements of that, and you're placing that in each of these different offices, and that's how you're building the growth and expanding out to 20 offices now, 120 team members. So walk me through that process. You get, because I'm thinking about a branch manager that's listening to this that thinks, okay, I'm going to put boots on the ground in a brand new marketplace. I'm going to get out there and grow this thing. What do you do? Where do you start? What does that look like from getting started, and then what does it grow to, and what eventually should it become?
Yeah, we've put a lot of time, energy, and effort into figuring this out. And we don't always get it right, but we've got it pretty well dialed in, I think, now. So the first where it starts is with the right people.
Yeah.
So as we look at where, you said, Robert, where's your next branch? My answer would be, I have no idea. The next branch is going to be wherever we find the right person that aligns with us from a culture and from a strategy, and really from a want standpoint. You have to want to take your business and to be involved with this.
Yep.
So, do we have markets that we would like to be in? We do, but until we find the right person, we're not going to be in those markets. So when we find the right person, then we start looking at problem solving. Really, it all starts from there. What challenges are they having? What do we need to work to fix and correct? And that's different for everybody. So there's not a one size fits all approach. It's very intuitive and digging in, very much like an Acts of Freedom would be for every loan officer, right? It's going to vary a little bit. It's the same with us. So what's needed for someone that I'm bringing on in New Orleans is going to be different than what's needed for that LO I'm bringing on in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
And then we tailor that plan kind of specific to them. And so what is constant in that is the level of support and what they can count on and what we bring to the table.
Yeah.
And that's the Freedom Club mentality, from the top down, which is a huge differentiator. We're always, as we have conversations with people, we're always talking about differentiators between us and either where they're at or maybe where they're talking about going. What sets us apart, and having everyone from the owner of our company, Joe Panabianco, to the head of retail sales, Vince Anguita, all of our RVPs, like everyone bought into this system and this thought process of how to do business, means that we get no pushback. And when I want to implement something, or put a biz dev person or a weather lady, as we call them, out there, or whatever, they're ready to run with it. So that's a constant. The level of support with when you're at that 5 to 6 units a month consistently, like you're not even going to have to come and ask and say, hey, I think I need a loan partner. It's, hey, you're at 5 to 6 units for the last 2 months. We need to get you a loan partner.
Yeah.
I've got this person. I want you to talk to them. We're going to line you up, and here's what we're going to do. That's a huge difference, for our organization versus a lot of companies. So I think if you're a branch manager and you're listening to this, you've got to figure out kind of what those constant points of support you're going to provide are, and how do they differentiate you from the competition, or whether that's where they're working now or the other people that may be recruiting them. And then, make those points and put that into play for the people that you're talking to.
Yep. Now, you mentioned two things that might be new to somebody that's listening to this podcast. You mentioned a loan partner, and then you also mentioned a weather lady. So the loan partner, do you have a standard job description for what that loan partner does when they come into the organization, or is that based on the Acts of Freedom and getting the tasks that the loan officer doesn't want to do, or the branch manager doesn't want to do, to that loan partner, or is it a set job description?
Yes and yes. If that makes sense. So we we have a set job description, in that it's more of a set mindset on the purpose of the loan partner.
Yeah.
And a lot of places do this differently. So a loan partner for us is 100% an extension of sales, and is there to support our selling originators. So some people will call a loan partner in title, and really it's a more of a function of ops and like a junior processor helping that kind of stuff. So our loan partner is 100% an extension of sales. Now, the A to Z of what they can do is defined, but it can vary from loan officer to loan officer. Like I have officers that may say, I want you to do A to L only, right? And then other loan officers may say, I want you to do O to Z. So from that, through the acts of freedom, they can pick kind of what that looks like with their loan partner. Um, I've talked about this a few times in Freedom Club meetings. I want to put this together. I'm sure it's out there in a few different ways, but as we look at the LO-LP relationship, really, I think there's kind of three phases to it, Chris.
Okay.
So the first is what I call back end. And that's really where, from an acts of freedom standpoint, the LO is offloading all of that stuff that happens from contract to sales submission. So it's the making sure disclosures are out, that they're signed, that your order outs are done, and that's on you, that you've got a good clean file, all your docs are in, all of that stuff, right? And usually that's where we see LOs who have never had a loan partner. That's where they start, because this is a two-way street. You've got loan officers who have been doing something as a one-man band for a long time. It's hard to get them to let go sometimes, right?
Oh yeah.
So we've got to start with that, so they can build trust and rapport with their loan partner. The next phase that we graduate to is what I call Dr. Nurse, right? So it's the loan partner kind of taking stuff on the front end, putting an app together, maybe even building it out, pulling credit, having it all built. The loan officer doing a quick once over, making sure it's all good, actually still selling the deal, talking to the customer and the real estate agents. And then when it goes contract, the loan partner comes in and does back end, which is what they were already doing in phase one.
Right.
And then the third and final phase, which is, I think, kind of the mecca to try to get every loan officer to. It's important to point out, not every loan officer is going to get here or even want to get here. Some of them just aren't ever going to want to be there, but that's what I call rainmaker. Okay. And that's when really, as a loan officer, your activity 100% of the day, all day, is marketing and building relationships. And all of the origination activities are done by your loan partner or your loan team. And the goal of that's to look at a commission report and not know a buyer's name. Like, that's 100% the goal, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of how we define it and set it forth, and it's worked well for us. We have a pretty astounding statistic that I love to share. Over 80% of originators who come and join us double their business within 24 months.
Wow.
Like that's huge. I don't know if there's anyone else out there that can make that claim and back it up with statistical evidence.
Right. That is incredible. And it's fast. Like, yes. That's incredible.
Yeah. And it's awesome.
Well, congratulations on that. And you mentioned the weather lady, because I'm assuming the weather lady is also an important part of that. So what is that? Explain what that is and why it's so important.
Yeah, it's a huge piece. So weather lady, biz dev rep, biz dev manager. So the best way that I can explain it, Chris, is think of like an outside sales rep from a title company. Okay. Or an insurance company. So it's someone that's in the market, building relationships with agents, builders, putting the brand out there, brand ambassador, and they're building relationships just to drive business back into the branch that then comes in, and either a loan officer or like an inside LO or an LP takes it and runs with that branch. So they own a lot of the relationship piece. What we find is there's a little bit of a disconnect in just from a disc and personality standpoint with what makes a really successful loan officer. You almost need two people, right? You need someone that is like that high D, high I that can build the relationships, bring the business in, and just build really strong following. But then you also need someone that's got a fair amount of S&C to be able to be detailed and put together a really good clean file and be organized. And those two people are usually complete opposites.
Yes.
So we've been successful in having the weather lady go out and find the business, build the relationships, and then drive it in to internal people who are really great technical loan officers at putting a file together, knowing guidelines, organized structure, but maybe aren't as great as making the phone ring.
Yeah.
So when we do that, it's a huge. Everyone's happy. Everyone's in the space they like to work in. Business is coming in, and it works really well.
That is incredible. And then the business owner, you, gets to sit on top, because when you've got all those systems and processes in place, your business is building. As long as you're empowering those people, you got the right culture and everything else that you've touched on. That is incredible, Robert.
Yeah, I would say we get to be the foundation and prop everyone else up, right? Like it's just always, and it's cool because it the role shifts, right? So now, like what used to jazz me up would be hitting new personal numbers, like, oh, we went from 4 million to 5 million. Now what jazzes me up is when I'm having that conversation with that loan officer, and it's like I got an email in May, and we were coming into June, and it was an LO that we brought on in October. And she emailed me and she goes, I've been in this business, I think 12 years, 13 years. She goes, June's going to be my best month ever. And everything that you've said is you've delivered on, and it's making a difference in the life of myself and my family. And thank you. And like, so that's what gets me, like, I could like run through a wall after that. Right. And Carl and I have talked, it's the ripple effect that the club provides, right? Like
Yeah.
it's Carl and his teachings and principles and philosophies changed my life, and now I'm able to give back and pay it forward and change the lives of others, and then they'll change the lives of others, right? So it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, which is a really cool thing.
That is amazing. And two words that you said, they're principles and philosophies. We have so many people that come to us for systems and tricks and hacks, and they want the easy thing for the next good lead to come into the business. And none of that works unless you've got the right philosophy behind the business and you've got all of that. So this is an incredibly valuable episode, Robert. Thank you so much for sharing. The final question, because I know your time is incredibly valuable. You mentioned earlier that you love telling the stories about the people in the organization and the culture, and that. Would you mind sharing one of those stories, one of your favorite stories about that?
Yeah, I would. And I tell this story a lot. Some of you probably heard it, but so we've got a guy. I'll shout him out by name, Jeff Shealy, who's with us. He's in the Katy, Texas, which is right outside of Houston market. So Jeff came. He joined us in August of 19. He was actually a partial owner of the company he was at before.
Okay.
And when we talk about mindset and differences, so Jeff had built a pretty successful team, and had the volume to go with it, and then margin compression hit in 18. And this company's mindset was, we've got to cut staff, we got to cut, and they decimated his team. And so he went, he was, when he came in and we ended up partnering together, he was 70 hours, 75 hours a week, one man
Wow.
band. He was doing 18, 20 million a year. So that was August of 19. He flew into Gainesville to meet with me to mastermind. And the first thing he said when I saw him is, I'm not here to be recruited. And I said, I'm not trying to recruit you, right? Well, he ended up leaving Gainesville and saying, I've got to line, like, we've got to work together. So August of 19, fast forward, we started building the team around him, putting the tools in place. He did like 19 million in 19. In 2020, now he has two full-time loan partners, a dedicated processor, a biz dev specialist. So in 2020, he did 52 million.
Wow.
19 to 52. And then this year he's pacing to 100.
That is
Um,
amazing.
and working, he's not quite down to like 30, 40 hours. He's probably 45-ish. But just, yeah, game changer. He bought, he bought a place at the beach. He bought a place in the mountains. Like, just, it's a huge difference. Huge difference.
Yeah,
My favorite story to tell. And he came
that's
in
awesome.
and basically put his cards on the table and said, I'm all in. What do we do? And we went to work.
That is amazing. And the thing that you really can't put a stat behind is the feeling when you walk into a business and you know everything's taken care of. You know your clients are taken care of. You know your files are going to close on time. You know that all that's going to happen, but you're not the one responsible for making it happen. You know, you are ultimately because you're building the system, but you don't actually have to do that work and lay awake at night worrying about it. Right. That in itself is a huge benefit as well.
It's huge. And listen, Chris, we don't always get it right. You know, I mean, we're not perfect, right? Everyone has their bumps in the road, and we have growing pains. You know, if you're a manager, a branch manager out there, and you're saying, hey, I want to recruit, I want to grow, I want to build, awesome. Make sure that you, so many times we let ops lag that. So make sure you're ahead of that curve with ops. So you're going to create some challenges for yourself. And, you know, as we've grown exponentially, we've run into some of that. So take my growing pains and learn from them, I guess.
That is amazing. Well, Robert, for our listeners that you know, that sounds amazing. They want more information. They'd love to learn about partnerships with you. How do people get a hold of you? How do they reach out? What's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to chat to anyone. So my email is rfillyaw@annie-mac.com. It's rfillyaw at annie-mac.com. And then hit me up on my phone as well, 352-665-1302. You know, we're real big on leadership and accountability, and I think there's a lot of that lacking in our industry, Chris. There aren't any true leaders and managers out there who are developing talent and coaching and building their team. So if you're out there and you're stuck without that and you're looking for that, I'd love to chat with you.
That's awesome, Robert. Well, again, thank you for being so generous with your knowledge and your time here today. It's been a thrill to have you on the show, and thank you so much. And Absolutely. For all our listeners, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks, Chris.
Hey, it's Chris Johnstone. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. I hope that you loved it and got incredible value from it. Right now, it's time to head on over to iTunes and leave your 5-star review if you enjoyed this episode. When you do, you will be entered into our monthly draw to receive an Amazon gift card. So go ahead, leave that review today. It also helps us attract top talent and really get incredible interviews lined up for you so that we can share even more value for you. Now, for the show notes and for all of the resources that were mentioned in this episode, you can head on over to loanofficerwealth.com. That's loanofficerwealth.com. You get access to all the show notes from all the episodes, all the past episodes, get notified of new episodes when they drop, and we've also got some very special bonuses for you over on that page when you opt in. So head on over and opt in today, and we look forward to sharing the next episode of the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast with you soon.